Now we need to fill our Airtable base with content ideas. So let's set up an agent that will do keyword research for us 24/7. Open up your N8N account and create a new folder for your project. I highly recommend keeping everything organized in folders. That way everything stays neatly organized. To create a folder, you should see an icon on the top right that says Create Folder next to this little filter icon. So I'm going to click Create a Folder. I'm going to call mine Content Engine Demo, and you might want to have one folder per project. Here's my new Content Engine Demo folder. I'm going to click on that, and it should look something like this. You can also create folders within folders. So if you want to house workflows for specific projects in here, you can do that. Next up, you're going to hit Create Workflow and just create a blank workflow. Then you're going to import the topic backlog agent that I provide. The link for this agent is in the resources section below this video. So to import it, you just click on these dots up here, and you're going to click Import from URL. Then you're going to paste in the URL that I provide in that resources link section. And then you're going to click on the import button. Once you import it, it should look something like this. It'll also automatically name it for you. You can rename it if you want. You just need to double click right here and then type in the new name if you want to rename it. You should also check the version to see if you have the latest one. I also keep track of what version each workflow is on in the name of the workflow. So over time, as I make improvements to these workflows, I'll update the version, and you'll have to import the latest version to get the latest updates to each workflow. So now we need to configure these nodes so that it works correctly. In N8N, you can click on workflows and move them around. You can also drag your view by holding Control or Command and clicking and dragging. You can also zoom in by holding Control or Command and then scrolling on your mouse wheel. So you can navigate your workflow quickly and easily by holding Control or Command, zooming in and out, and clicking and dragging to find your way around the workflow. Now let's configure the schedule trigger. The schedule trigger determines how often you want to run this agent. Double click on this node to open it up. Then you'll see the settings for the schedule trigger. The only thing you need to change is the frequency. Right now it's set to run every hour. So let's change this to run every minute. To do that, you click on the trigger interval field, and then you're going to select minutes. And then for the minutes between triggers field, change that from a 5 to a 1. Then you can hit execute step to see if it works. Once you see execute step, you should see an output that looks like this. This is just to show you that the schedule trigger worked. In N8N, you can look at inputs and outputs in different ways using these tabs in the top right. You can see the schema view, which shows you all of the individual fields. You can see a table view, or you can see a JSON view. And as you get more familiar with N8N, you'll probably find yourself switching between these views as you work on your automations. Now that we've run our schedule trigger, you'll see that it's green, and it has a green arrow going to the next node. So now we need to configure our Find Categories in Production node. This node will check your Airtable to see which categories it's allowed to produce research for. Double click on this node to open it up. The first thing that you're going to need to do is configure your Airtable credential. N8N needs to connect to your Airtable through the API so that it can pull in all of your records. Yours is going to say create new credential. Once you click on that, it's going to take you to a little pop-up window where you create your Airtable credential. You can also rename your Airtable credential by clicking on the name and calling it whatever you want. I'm going to call mine Content Engine Airtable Demo. Next up, we need the access token to connect to Airtable. So you want to be using access token, not OAuth 2. And now we just need to get our access token from Airtable. To do that, you're going to go back into Airtable and you're going to go to your content database. Once you're in your content database, go to the bottom left of the screen and you'll see a tiny little icon down here called Account. Click on that, and then you want to go to Builder Hub. It's in the menu here with the little wrench icon. Once you're in, it'll look something like this, and you want to head over to the sidebar here, and you want to click on Personal Access Tokens. Once you're in Personal Access Tokens, you click Create Token, and then you want to give your token a name. You can name it whatever you want. Ideally, you want to name this after the project that it's going to be working on. You might want to have multiple tokens that have access to different bases. So I'm going to name mine CE Demo, and now I need to add scopes. So click on Add a Scope here, and then you want to click on Data Records Read. This will allow N8N to read all of your records. Then we're going to click Add a Scope again, and we're going to click on Data Records Write. This allows N8N to write new records to your Airtable. Then we're going to click on Add again, and we're going to click on Schema Bases Read. This allows N8N to see the structure of your bases like the fields. And then we're going to click Add a Scope one more time, and we're going to select Schema Bases Write. This will allow N8N to write important fields to your tables. Now we need to decide what it has access to. You can give it access to all of your projects by clicking on Add Resources, or you can give it access to individual projects by clicking Add a Base. I'm going to go with this option and click Add a Base, and then I'm going to click on my content database. And we also need the prompt library, so I'm going to click Add a Base again, and I'm going to select Prompt Library. So now this specific token has access to my content database and my prompt library. If I had multiple projects, I could have different tokens that have access to different content databases, but they all have access to the same prompt library. Now we're going to hit Create Token. After creating a token, you're going to get a pop-up saying your token has been created, and it's going to give you your token ID right here. Click on the little clipboard icon, and that will copy it to your clipboard. And then you're going to click Done. Now, when you go into Personal Access Tokens, you can see the token that you just created and what it has access to. You can also create more tokens anytime for other projects. Now we're going back into N8N, and we're going back into our credential that we're setting up, and we're going to paste our token in the Access Token field. Once you enter your Access Token, you're going to hit Save up in the top right corner. When you do that, it's going to test the connection to Airtable, and you should see a green bar saying Connection Tested Successfully. You now have an Airtable credential that you can connect to. Next, you need to change the base and the table that this is referencing. By default, it's going to be referencing Remote Teamer and Categories. So you want to click on this dropdown and change it to your content database. And then for the table, you want to click on this dropdown and select your Categories tab. You don't need to change anything else. To confirm this is working, go ahead and hit Execute Step. You'll see a notification saying the node executed correctly, but no output data was returned. And that's because this filter is set to only return categories where the research status is not set to off. So now let's go back into Airtable and set up a category that it can research. So I'm going to go back into Airtable and I'm going to click back. Then I'm going to click into my content database and I'm going to go to the categories tab. You should see a test category in here with a field called research status that is currently set to off. We're going to turn this on and we're going to select outer section. Outer section means that it'll do research for informational topics. Core section means that it will do research for monetizable pages, such as service pages, product pages, or whatever you define as monetizable pages for your project. Or you can select both core and outer section. For this example, I'm just going to go with outer section. Now that we've turned it on, we can go back into N8N and test this. So now I'm back in N8N on the same node, and I'm going to hit Execute Step. Now the output is returning the category that I have turned on, and you can see all of the fields that it returns. Now we just need to configure the rest of the nodes in the workflow. Next, we're going to work on Check Existing Records. So double click on this node to open it, and then you just need to change the base and the table that it references. So I'm going to click on my content database, and for this one, you're going to select Content. This node is going to pull up every single record that you've already created. This ensures that it doesn't create the same topic twice. Next up, we're going to configure Get Content Types. And all we need to change is the base and the table again. So we're going to select our content database and we're going to select content types. And this will pull in a list of all of the available content types that you've specified to create. If you go back into your content database and go to the content types tab, you'll see that there's 10 options in here. These are the available content types that the Backlog agent can choose from when creating topics. You can specify more content types by going into your prompt library, going to the Content Types tab, and choosing from the options that are available. If you want to add a new content type, you just need to make sure that it matches the name word for word. So let's say I want to add the requirements content type. I just need to copy the name word for word and then add it to my list here. And now we've added requirements as an available content type that it can create. This allows you to control the content types that you'll be using for this project. I've added tons of ideas in here for you to choose from, but you can also make your own from scratch. I'll show you how to create new content types in future videos. So now going back into N8N, we've configured our trigger, we're finding categories that are in production, and we're checking for existing records and pulling a list of available content types. You don't need to make any changes to loop over items. You don't need to make any changes to these aggregate nodes. You don't need to make any changes to this merge node, and you don't need to make any changes to this aggregate node. So now we're on the Get Content Configuration node. This is a document that just provides background information about your project. We're actually just going to set this up later. So for now, we're going to right click on it and we're going to hit deactivate. You can also press D on your keyboard to deactivate it and reactivate it. When a node is deactivated, it just skips it in these steps. That way you can run your workflow and skip deactivated nodes completely and just go to the next step. Now we're on the topic research agent. And the only thing that you need to do for this agent is give it a chat model, which acts as its brain. So double click on the chat model node. And now you just need to set up an OpenAI credential. So click on Create New Credential, and you can rename this credential if you want. And then you just need to paste in your API key. To get an API key, you just want to go into your OpenAI account. This is different from ChatGPT, so you might need to create a new OpenAI account to access this dashboard. Once you're in, go to the Dashboard tab and look on the left sidebar for the API keys. Then you're going to create a new API key. To do that, you click Create New Secret Key in the top right of the menu. Name it whatever you want, and then you click Create Secret Key. Then it's going to create an API key for you, and you click Copy, and then click Done. You'll see your new API key in the table here. You won't be able to get your secret key back once you've created it, so you can save this to your computer. But if you ever need to create a new key and delete an old one, it's really easy to do. You just click on delete here and create new secret key. It is a good idea to keep your secret keys secure, so that way other people can't start using them and bill your account for their usage. Now we're going back into N8N on our OpenAI credential, and we're going to paste in our API key. You don't need to fill out any of the other fields, so just hit save in the top right of this window. Then it will test the key and you should see a green bar saying that the connection was tested successfully. Then you can close this and you now have a connection for OpenAI. By default, this model will be GPT-5 mini. You don't need to make any other changes. So you can close this by clicking out of this window. And now finally, we just need to update the Add to Backlog Airtable node. So just change your base to your content database and change your table to your content table. If your values get switched out when you clear this, you just need to update them with the values provided from the sticky note off to the side here. So this sticky note has all of the fields that you need to put into your Add to Backlog node. Make sure you copy them exactly without making any changes to the formatting. First, we will add the name, and you want to switch that to expression as you click on it. It should turn green, and if you've executed previous nodes, you'll see a preview of what it should send. Now we'll add the keyword. So just look for the keyword field, paste that in, and switch it to an expression, and it should go green. Now the category, Find the category field and paste that in and switch it to an expression. Now the content type, same thing, paste it in, switch it to an expression. You'll notice that content types are returned as an array and they only say the ID. This is a quirk of Airtable because in your content database, the content type is actually a lookup to a different tab. So it manages that by ID instead of by name. That can be a little bit confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. Now we're going to add the search intent. So switch that to expression first and then paste in the search intent value. Then we're going to add the page title. So paste that in and switch it to an expression. Now the URL slug and the meta description. Those are all the fields that this automation will populate. You can delete any of the other fields that are not in here, except for the status column. You want to keep that one. So I'm going to delete last published date, the notes field, and then for the status, we're going to manually specify that to go to the backlog. So these are all of the fields that are needed. Now we have the whole workflow set up so we can test it out. You're going to hit this execute workflow button at the bottom of your screen, and you should see it work its way through each of these nodes. Now it's working on researching a topic. The topic research agent has all of the prompts built into it. I highly recommend that you don't mess with this prompt because it could actually break the functionality. This prompt is not actually in the content database because you don't need to and shouldn't be customizing this prompt. You basically just want to leave this one alone. If you are going to make changes to it, I'd recommend only making slight tweaks and of course test it to make sure you don't break the functionality. If you break this prompt, you can just make a new copy of this agent and you'll get the latest prompt. If you have any feedback for this agent, you can also send it my way so that I can use your feedback to inform the revisions to this prompt over time. Now it's completed its run and it's added a record to my backlog. So I'm going to go back to my content database in Airtable and I'm going to go to the backlog view, or the everything view would work as well. And we should see our new record added to the backlog. To expand a record, you just click on this little icon here and it'll pull up a full page view of the record. So it created all of these fields for me, content automation tools. It created the URL slug, the keyword, the status is the backlog, the category is test category. It's got a full URL. It said the search intent is commercial. It's got a title and a description, and it chose comparison as the content type. It's got some other fields and everything else is blank. You'll also notice that this is a loop. So if you had more than one category in production, it would repeat this process for the next category. That way you can do keyword research for multiple categories at the same time. Once this is set up, you want to go ahead and turn it on to active. Once you do this, it's going to start running at the interval, which earlier I set it to every 1 minute. You can ignore this production checklist stuff. And then you want to go over to your executions tab. And now you can see that it's running behind the scenes. This is going to create new topics every minute until I turn it off. It's also important to remember to not leave this running. On the free Airtable plan, you have a 1,000 record maximum. After that, you need to upgrade to the team plan. So if you accidentally leave this on overnight, then it's going to max out your plan pretty quickly. So now this run has succeeded, and you can see in the preview here what it created. If you click on the final add to backlog node, I can see that it created content automation workflow as a topic. So now if I go back into my backlog in Airtable, I can see that new record created. Now going back into the executions, I can see that it's working on the next topic idea. Now that I've generated some topics, I'm going to turn this off. I can turn it back on anytime when I need more topics. So now I've got 3 topics in my backlog created by my agent. You want to validate these topics before you send them in for production. I have a separate video on how that works, but for now, let's just get everything up and running. Going back into the categories tab, you can create more categories for your project, but in order to improve what topics it recommends, you want to edit this core topics field here. So click on that for the category and click on the little expand icon. And it says here, provide high-level ideas of the main areas of focus for this cluster. So for my example, I'm going to put informational topics on content automation, benefits, issues, challenges, etc. I'm going to rename this category to content automation, and I'll rename the slug to content automation as well. So you want to go ahead and customize at least one category for your project. A good way to think about this is that one category should equal one cluster of content. Everything in one category or cluster should be closely related in terms of the topic that it writes on. So in my example, I'm building out a cluster on content automation, and I've already got benefits, tools, workflow, and examples as content ideas. In the next video, I'll show you how to revise your topics using the notes field and the content revision agent. I'll also show you how to bulk import your topics from your keyword research or your existing spreadsheets. The topic revision agent can make any kind of revisions to your records, and it can also populate missing fields for records that you imported. That way you can bring your own keyword research or topics into the project without needing to manually map all the fields. After that, I'll also show you how to get the content configuration document up and running. We're going to leave this for now and just get the revision agent up and running next.